Good morning, students. Now here we come up with the posterior triangle contents part 2, that is supraclavicular triangle. So in the posterior triangle, yesterday we had discussed occipital triangle. Now it is supraclavicular triangle. So it is part 2, contents of posterior triangle, supraclavicular triangle. So here once again we go with the diagram in which we are going to draw trapezius. These are the fibers of trapezius. So please draw the fibers of trapezius muscle here. And we are going to draw sternocleidomastoid muscle. So therefore, this will be the fibers of sternocleidomastoid muscle. Please draw the fibers of sternocleidomastoid. So therefore, now here, this is the posterior border of sternocleidomastoid, in which we have made it clear it will form the anterior boundary of the posterior triangle, and this is the anterior margin of trapezius which will form the posterior boundary of posterior triangle. And we have to draw clavicle. So therefore, here we are going to draw, this is the clavicle. So we are going to draw the clavicle. Please draw this clavicle. Base is by clavicle, and then we are going to draw the inferior belly of omohyoid. Now this inferior belly of omohyoid is drawn in this direction. We are going to show this will be the inferior belly of omohyoid muscle. So therefore, here we dark this boundary, and this will complete our inferior belly of omohyoid division into the two triangles. Now here we had divided the floor. So yesterday we had drawn this semispinalis capitis. We are drawing once again the floor of the occipital triangle from above to below, semispinalis capitis, and then we are drawing the second muscle, and this is the second muscle, splenius capitis. So therefore, here this is semispinalis capitis. Here we are going to mark as splenius capitis. Then we are going to mark this as at this point we are going to mark it as levator scapulae. So therefore, these are the fibers of levator scapulae muscles. Semispinalis capitis, splenius capitis, levator scapulae. So levator scapulae. Below that, we are going to mark the scalenus. Here we are going to mark this as scalenus posterior. So therefore, these are the fibers of scalenus posterior muscle. So therefore, we are going to mark this as scalenus posterior, and then we are going to mark scalenus medius muscle. So scalenus medius will come at this point. We are going to show this entire fibers as scalenus medius. Even they are the main muscle, the scalenus medius is the main muscle which is present as a floor in supraclavicular triangle. So therefore, here we are going to write down this muscle as scalenus medius. A part of scalenus medius is forming the floor of occipital triangle, and the main part, major part of the scalenus medius will be forming the floor of the supraclavicular triangle. And below that, yesterday we had drawn scalenus anterior. Same way we are going to draw the scalenus anterior. Although scalenus anterior is not included in the floor of the supraclavicular triangle, but then also we need to show scalenus anterior. So little bit of fibers of scalenus anterior we are going to show over here, because scalenus anterior is overlapped by fibers of sternocleidomastoid muscle. The lowermost fibers of sternocleidomastoid muscle, after retracting them medially, Only after retracting that medially we are able to see the scalenus anterior. But because in order to understand the contents of supraclavicular triangle, we need to show scalenus anterior muscle, although it will not form the floor. Here we are going to mark this as, please mark down, scalenus anterior muscle. Are we able to see this here?
Yes.
So scalenus anterior, it should be very clear. Now the floor is complete, right from above to below, semispinalis capitis, splenius capitis, levator capitis, scalenus posterior, scalenus medius, and scalenus anterior, but it doesn't form the floor. Now, the boundaries of, yesterday we have discussed the occipital triangle. Now today we are going to discuss the supraclavicular triangle, where my hand is there. The boundaries of supraclavicular triangle, please try and understand. Superiorly, inferior value of omohyoid. So here we go with inferior belly of omohyoid. This is the superior boundary of supraclavicular triangle. Inferiorly, clavicle. So inferiorly, this is the clavicle. Base is formed by clavicle. So superiorly, it is formed by inferior belly of omohyoid, base by the clavicle, anteriorly by posterior border of sternocleidomastoid muscle. So therefore, this muscle is sternocleidomastoid muscle. Sternomastoid. It is also known as sternomastoid muscle. So sternocleidomastoid muscle, anteriorly posterior border of sternocleidomastoid muscle. So therefore, this triangle which is formed is called supraclavicular triangle. That is what we have written here. Now this supraclavicular triangle is also known as subclavian triangle. Other name of supraclavicular triangle is subclavian triangle. Now we come to the floor. Floor of, after finishing the boundaries, floor. Floor consists of scalenus medius muscle. The first structure will be scalenus medius muscle, not sternocleidomastoid, but this scalenus medius muscle here. So here we come with the floor, scalenus medius muscle. First content of the floor of supraclavicular triangle, scalenus medius. Second content will be here, outer border of first rib. Please note down. Outer border of first rib is the second content. Third content, very interesting, although it is lying deep. First vegetation of serratus anterior muscle. So please note down the first vegetation of serratus anterior muscle. Although it is present very deep, but it forms a part of the floor of supraclavicular triangle. The first vegetation of serratus anterior muscle. These three portions will form the floor of supraclavicular triangle. Please note down once again, scalenus anterior does not form the floor, but if we retract the fibers of sternocleidomastoid medially, the lowermost fibers, then and then we are able to see some of the fibers of scalenus anterior muscle. Note down this point. Now we come to the contents, the core. The contents will be, the first content will be, we have to draw here, very interesting, we start with third part of subclavian artery. Third part of subclavian artery will stretch from lateral border of scalenus anterior muscle till outer border of first rib. And that is why we have drawn this scalenus anterior muscle. So from the lateral border, this is the lateral border of scalenus anterior muscle, we just draw in this way. So this is subclavian artery. And this subclavian artery is third part of subclavian artery. Once again I repeat, from the lateral border of scalenus anterior muscle till outer border of first rib. So small part of third part of subclavian artery is seen here. Now this subclavian artery, if you recollect, it is divided into three parts by scalenus anterior muscle. First part will be lying medial to scalenus anterior, second part will be lying posterior to scalenus anterior, and third part will be lying between the lateral border of scalenus anterior till the outer border of first rib. The first rib will be just behind and below the clavicle. So it goes behind the clavicle. Now here, third part of subclavian artery. Now in order to revise very fast, the first part of subclavian artery will give the following branches. What are the branches of first part of subclavian artery? Vertebral artery, internal thoracic artery, thyrocervical trunk, and costocervical trunk from the left side. What are the branches of the second part of the subclavian artery? Only one branch, costocervical trunk from the right side. And what are the branches of third part of subclavian artery? Only one, dorsal scapular artery. Now content number 2. So first we will mark here, this will be, here I am going to mention the contents, subclavian artery. Which part? The third part. This is content number 1. So I am going to mark this as content number 1. Are we able to see here?
Yes, sir.
This portion? So content number 2. Please note down. After subclavian artery, subclavian vein. So subclavian vein. Now here, once again, an important note here. Just like scalenus anterior, the subclavian vein is not seen in the routine dissection. So in routine dissection, whenever you are dissecting, subclavian vein is not visible because the subclavian vein will lie behind the clavicle. But here we need to show them. So if you retract it, if you retract the clavicle, try and retract the clavicle towards you and try and go deep in this fossa, supraclavicular triangle, you are able to see definitely subclavian vein. And this subclavian vein has an important relation. So subclavian vein, small part of subclavian vein is seen here where in front of scalenus anterior muscle. Now remember, subclavian artery is situated behind the, it is coming, the third part of subclavian artery is coming from behind the scalenus anterior muscle, and subclavian vein is coming from front of scalenus anterior muscle. So therefore here we are showing this portion, small portion, as subclavian vein. It is lying behind the clavicle, remember, but a small portion, if you just retract, you are able to see this subclavian vein, but it is lying in front of scalenus anterior muscle. So how subclavian vein is defined? Subclavian vein is defined as a continuation of axillary vein from outer border of first rib, and it will travel till the medial border of scalenus anterior muscle. Medial border of scalenus anterior muscle, where it will join with the internal jugular vein. So this is subclavian vein. And remember, one structure which is separating subclavian vein anteriorly and subclavian artery posteriorly is scalenus anterior muscle. So therefore, if I darken the margin here, this is the few fibers of scalenus anterior muscle. That is why I am darkening here. And then just in front I show this vein. So please mark this structure here. I am not going to put an arrow, it will complicate. So I am going to mark this structure here as subclavian vein. Content number 2. Now content number 3. Another important vein which we have discussed in the occipital triangle, terminal portion of, I am going to write terminal part of external jugular vein. So this terminal portion of external jugular vein, please draw it over here, coming from, see here, it is coming from above the sternocleidomastoid muscle, and then it will open here in this way. So therefore it is going to pierce the investing layer of deep cervical fascia just above the clavicle. Which vein? External jugular vein. We have discussed this entirely. The entire external jugular vein has been discussed, and it will open in subclavian vein just above the clavicle. So this terminal portion of external jugular vein here is a content of this much. Terminal portion of external jugular vein is a content of supraclavicular triangle, and that is point number 3. And here you will even see in the roof portion, because this external jugular vein is present in the posterior triangle in the roof. Where it is present just beneath the platysma. What are the structures which will form the roof of the entire posterior triangle? Skin, superficial fascia, platysma, and investing layer of deep cervical fascia from superficial to deep. Now beneath the platysma, you are able to see this external jugular vein. And beneath that investing layer of deep cervical fascia, where it will pierce, the external jugular vein will pierce investing layer of deep cervical fascia here, few centimeters above the clavicle, and then it will open into subclavian vein. Now here, this roof, the 4 layers of this roof which I have discussed will remain constant for occipital triangle as well as supraclavicular triangle. What are the 3 veins which are terminating external jugular vein? That also we have seen. The 3 veins which will terminate here, which we should not draw right now because it will complicate the things. The three veins will be the anterior jugular vein, which already we have discussed in one of the segments. Then there will be one of the veins which is known as transverse cervical vein, and one of the veins which is known as suprascapular vein. These are the veins which are going to drain into the terminal part of external jugular vein. Now we come to content number 4. So in the content number 4, there will be trunks of brachial plexus, not the cords, but the trunks. And these trunks are upper and middle trunk and lower trunk. So upper and middle trunk and lower trunk. Why I have kept upper and middle trunk in one rectangle and lower trunk in another one? That is because here we will show upper and middle trunk of brachial plexus are situated above and lateral to subclavian artery. So therefore here I am going to show this as upper and middle trunk. And these are the two trunks which are visible, upper and middle trunk, above and lateral to subclavian artery. So remember, these are the upper and middle trunk of brachial plexus, which is visible just above subclavian artery. What about the lower trunk? This lower trunk will lie behind the subclavian artery, and that is why it is not visible in the diagram. So behind the subclavian artery is the lower trunk of brachial plexus. This is content number 4. Now in the same content number 4, there should be discussion of the 4 important nerves. They are the branches of supraclavicular portion of these brachial plexus. And we know these trunks, upper, middle and lower trunk, they will form the cords of brachial plexus, and then these cords will have branches of brachial plexus. So therefore, this is the making of brachial plexus, upper, middle and lower trunk. So therefore, the branches of supraclavicular portion of this brachial plexus, that is the trunks. What are those branches? In the supraclavicular triangle, they are 4. And what are those 4 branches? We need to understand. Number 1, the first branch which we discussed in the previous segment will be dorsal scapular nerve. So therefore, here we are going to draw the dorsal scapular nerve, and this dorsal scapular nerve will be present in the floor, and this dorsal scapular nerve will pierce the scalenus medius muscle. Root value will be C5. So after piercing this C5, the root value is C5. After piercing, it will then appear in the floor, and then it will pass. Where it will pass? This nerve will pass beneath the levator scapulae muscle in this direction. So it will appear in the occipital triangle also. This is dorsal scapular nerve and the root value C5. So here we are going to show this dorsal scapular nerve as dorsal scapular nerve C5. It is piercing scalenus medius. So the origin where it pierces scalenus medius is within the supraclavicular triangle, and then it will arc upwards, backwards through the occipital triangle as a content, and then pass deep to levator scapulae. And the remaining cords we know, as it will supply dorsal scapular, that means it will supply rhomboids. It is the nerve to the rhomboids. So this is the first content of the supraclavicular portion of the brachial plexus, dorsal scapular nerve. So here I am going to write here as content number 1, dorsal scapular. Now we come to content number 2. Here only I am going to mention content number 2, and that nerve will be long thoracic nerve. So long thoracic nerve. This long thoracic nerve will have root value of, coming up, time constraint in the next segment. So therefore, long thoracic nerve with the root value of C5, C6, C7. Now this long thoracic nerve is basically nerve to serratus anterior, and this long thoracic nerve, in the dissection it will be very deep, and that deep portion, it will lie behind the brachial plexus and behind the subclavian vessels, and it will pass vertically downwards, C5, C6, C7. So therefore, if it passes downwards, if we show with a line here, it goes behind. C5 and C6 roots will pierce scalenus medius muscle. So please note down, in the long thoracic nerve which is lying very deep, the C5 and C6 roots will pierce the scalenus medius and they will join the C7 nerve root a little bit down. So therefore, after C7 joins them, it becomes C5, C6, C7, which will be known as long thoracic nerve. It will supply the serratus anterior muscle. So first, dorsal scapular, which supplies the rhomboids, C5. Second is long thoracic nerve, C5, 6, 7, which will supply the serratus anterior. Now third structure, I will write the third structure over here. Please note down the third structure I am going to write over here, and that will be the nerve to subclavius. So please note down, nerve to subclavius muscle. This is a branch of upper cord. So the root value will be C5, C6. Please note down the branch of upper trunk, not cord, it is a branch of upper trunk. So this is the upper trunk here. It is composed of C5, C6. It will carry the rootlets of C5, C6. So that is why here we are writing nerve to subclavius C5, C6. Now here, this nerve to subclavius will be superficial to brachial plexus and subclavian vessels. So here I am going to draw the nerve to subclavius. It will pass like this. And this nerve to subclavius here, superficial to the subclavian vessels and the brachial plexus, it will pass just behind the clavicle and it will supply the subclavius muscle, and along with subclavius muscle it will supply some fibers to sternoclavicular joint. So please note down, it will supply some fibers to sternoclavicular joint and subclavius muscle. Now this nerve to subclavius will also give a branch and offshoot sometimes from C5. So from C5 root, the nerve to subclavius will give a branch and offshoot, and that will supply, that will join with the the phrenic nerve, where it is known as accessory phrenic nerve. So therefore, here this is nerve to subclavius, fourth structure. Now this fourth structure here, which I am going to write down, will be suprascapular nerve. So therefore, suprascapular nerve. Again, like nerve to subclavius, it is a branch of the upper trunk of brachial plexus. So there are two branches of the upper trunk of brachial plexus, and they are carrying the rootlets of C5, C6. One nerve to subclavius and another suprascapular nerve. Now this suprascapular nerve will travel, from C5 and it will pass here in the occipital triangle, and therefore once it crosses in the occipital triangle, it will be passing in the floor of the posterior triangle. It will pass deep to the anterior border of trapezius muscle. So once it passes deep to anterior border of trapezius muscle, the suprascapular nerve, it will then pass till the superior border of the scapula, where the suprascapular nerve will supply nerve fibers to supraspinatus and infraspinatus muscle, and at the same time it will supply the fibers to shoulder joint and acromioclavicular joint. So that is suprascapular nerve. So here we have finished the four nerves. These four nerves will be the dorsal scapular nerve, long thoracic nerve, nerve to subclavius, and suprascapular nerve. These are the four nerves which are visible during the dissection of the supraclavicular triangle. And so we have finished four contents. Now these four nerves are the branches of supraclavicular portion of brachial plexus. Now content number 5. So therefore, I am going to write down content number 5. Please come on this side if we are able to get this. Now we should be able to get here and here, both the content number 5 will be the arteries. For example, superficial cervical artery. Second will be there will be the suprascapular artery, and third will be dorsal scapular artery. Now please note down, the superficial cervical artery and suprascapular artery, they are the branches of thyrocervical trunk of the subclavian artery. Which part of subclavian artery? First part of subclavian artery. And dorsal scapular artery is a branch of third part of the subclavian artery. Now superficial cervical artery, remember this was the content of the occipital triangle. Now once again the superficial cervical artery here, the superficial cervical artery, it will pass from this artery will pass from the subclavian, and this artery will travel over the brachial plexus, superficial to brachial plexus, and then it will pass anterior border, it will pass deep to anterior border of trapezius, and then we know the entire course where it will anastomose with the descending branches of occipital artery. So therefore, the superficial cervical artery, this superficial cervical artery will form the content of both the triangles, occipital triangle as well as supraclavicular triangle. Second artery, suprascapular artery. Now this suprascapular artery will pass in this direction, upwards and backwards, and it will pass superficial to subclavian artery as well as the brachial plexus, and this suprascapular artery will then pass parallel to the clavicle, behind the clavicle, and suprascapular artery, where it will pass, this suprascapular artery will pass to the superior border of the scapula, where it will enter the supraspinous fossa. How does it enter the supraspinous fossa? Above the transverse scapular ligament. Because below that transverse scapular ligament there will be passing of suprascapular nerve, and above that ligament is suprascapular artery. So therefore, in short, it will go towards the supraspinous fossa in the scapula, suprascapular artery. Content of supraclavicular triangle. Third artery, dorsal scapular. We will not draw here the third artery. That dorsal scapular artery will travel deep just behind the clavicle, and this dorsal scapular artery will travel along with dorsal scapular nerve. So if we want to show as a line representation, we can show, since this is the dorsal scapular nerve, we can show that this artery will be present just beneath the dorsal scapular nerve. Along with dorsal scapular nerve, it is passing, and this artery will pass deep to the levator scapulae muscle. So therefore, this artery, dorsal scapular artery, this artery will be along with the dorsal scapular nerve. It will accompany, it will pass deep inside, where it will pass deep to the levator scapulae, and therefore this artery is the content of supraclavicular triangle only, because it is located very deep, and it will pass deep to the levator scapulae muscle also. And this dorsal scapular artery will then pass along with the dorsal scapular nerve, and it will pass towards the rhomboids. So therefore, here these are the three arteries which will function as content number 5. These are the three. Now here there is a small 1 mark question answer, viva question. In 1/3 of the cases, superficial cervical artery along with dorsal scapular artery will have a common trunk of origin from thyrocervical trunk. In those cases, that common trunk will be known as, now here they will have a common trunk, superficial cervical artery and dorsal scapular artery. In 1/3 of the cases, remember, in 1/3 of the persons, they will have common trunk which will be known as transverse cervical artery. Now this is 1 mark question answer. What is transverse cervical artery? 1/3 of the people where the superficial cervical artery and dorsal scapular artery will have a common trunk of origin from thyrocervical trunk. In those cases, that common trunk is called transverse cervical artery. And now, last, very interesting, content number 6 of the supraclavicular triangle, lymph nodes. Which group of lymph nodes? Posterior, inferior, deep cervical. The posterior inferior group of deep cervical lymph nodes. posterior inferior group of deep cervical lymph nodes, which are also called supraclavicular lymph nodes. So please write down supraclavicular lymph nodes. So this group is known as supraclavicular lymph nodes. Where are they located? They are located around the inferior value of omohyoid. Around the inferior value of omohyoid, these supraclavicular lymph nodes are located here in the diagram, around the inferior value of omohyoid. Now, where will they drain the lymph from? They will drain the lymphatic drainage from, here we are going to show with the arrow, they will drain the lymphatic drainage from posterior part of the scalp and the neck region. Posterior part of the scalp and the neck region. Then they are going to drain the lymph from the upper group of deep cervical lymph nodes. Then they are going to draw the lymph from the deltopectoral group of lymph nodes. Deltopectoral group of lymph nodes. And then they are going to draw the lymph from, that means they are going to receive the lymph from, very important, they are going to receive from axillary group of lymph nodes, the axillary group of lymph nodes. So from the following structures they are going to drain the lymph. From these structures the lymph is going to pass to supraclavicular lymph node. From supraclavicular lymph node the lymph is going to pass, are we able to get this? From here it is going to pass to the jugular lymph trunk. Jugular lymph trunk. So from here it is going to drain into the jugular lymph trunk. Now these are the 6 contents of the supraclavicular triangle. Now applied anatomy. In the applied anatomy, here this corner I will utilize applied anatomy. We will discuss. First point is enlargement of supraclavicular group of lymph nodes. This supraclavicular group of lymph nodes, left side if they are enlarged. In the left side if they are enlarged, the supraclavicular group of lymph nodes, they are known as Virchow's lymph nodes. VIRCHOWS, Virchow's lymph nodes. The left supraclavicular group of lymph nodes if they are enlarged. And these lymph nodes if they are enlarged, that means there will be malignancy affecting stomach, testes, etc. The malignant conditions of the stomach and testes, these lymphatic drainage will spread to the Virchow's lymph nodes. That is left supraclavicular group of lymph nodes when they are enlarged. Now second point in applied anatomy will be very interesting. This is about prevertebral fascia. So what is prevertebral fascia? We know that it is the fascia which is covering the entire contents of the posterior triangle. Now 2 structures are lying deep to prevertebral fascia. And what are those 2 structures? Subclavian artery and brachial plexus. These 2 structures are lying deep to prevertebral fascia. What about subclavian vein? It is lying superficial to prevertebral fascia. So therefore this prevertebral fascia, as it passes in the axilla, it will carry along with it this sheath. And this sheath continues in the axilla as axillary sheath. And that is why axillary artery and the cords of brachial plexus are enveloped by axillary sheath. Whereas axillary vein is lying outside the axillary sheath, because here subclavian vein is lying outside the prevertebral fascia, and therefore subclavian vein is nothing but continuation of axillary vein. And because of this, axillary vein will lie outside the axillary sheath, because subclavian vein is lying outside the prevertebral fascia. Note down this very important point. Therefore, what encloses prevertebral fascia? Prevertebral fascia will enclose it will cover the subclavian artery and brachial plexus. And this will lie outside the vein. And because of that, the prevertebral fascia will extend as axillary sheath. So therefore in axilla also the similar pattern will be found, where the axillary vein will lie outside the axillary sheath, because axillary fascia is a continuation of prevertebral fascia, and brachial plexus and axillary artery will be lying beneath the axillary sheath. Now here the veins, that is subclavian vein and axillary vein, it is surrounded by loose areolar tissue because it needs space for them to expand. So here we finish the entire contents of supraclavicular triangle. Thank you very much.